Hello, lovely Libras. This is the reading for the week of November 17th. I took last week off and now I'm back. So as I was getting ready to do your readings today, I heard the theme from The Love Boat, which was a show, gosh, I remember back when I was a young kid. So I looked it up, and this is the part of the song, the part of the lyrics that seem relevant to what I'm feeling for you. Love, exciting and new, come aboard, we're expecting you. Love, life's sweetest reward, let it flow. It floats back to you. And so when I looked at this, the rest of it, of course, the show is the Love Boat, where, people go on a cruise and they meet people, they fall in love, they meet old loves, whatever. But for me, the feeling of this was not that it was about you going out and meeting somebody new, although for some of you it might be and it might become that. The feeling that I got more, and certainly what Spirit's giving me through the cards, is that what's really important for you, my lovely Libras, is that you give yourself permission to feel love. That giving it and receiving it allows it to create a circuit of energy. When you only give and don't receive, or when you only receive and don't give, it becomes very static and it's not something that builds a lot of momentum. So when we're looking at this, what we're getting here in the cards for you is this. And what we're getting from Spirit is this. Showing emotion for you has not always been easy. Any emotion that has been anything less than something you have analyzed as being appropriate for the situation and perfect. It's been very difficult for a lot of you Libras to be spontaneous in your loving. And when I say loving, I mean loving. I don't mean romance. I don't mean, physicality in that way. I mean the real ability to experience yourself in a state of love. It's as though your anxiety about doing it right, your worry about doing it right, has often gotten in the way of you being able to calm yourself down long enough to be able to really feel what you're feeling. Because the reality is, Libra, when you really do feel love, it's something that you automatically want to share. It's something that you want to exude. You have a real desire typically to really want to connect with people in a way where it feels as though you are being perceived in a good way, no shame in that, and that you are being uplifting to other people. But it doesn't necessarily always come with heartfelt feeling. And so it's not always perceived that way with other people. Sometimes it can feel as though it's very guarded. And so even though it's lovely, it's not necessarily something people open up to. And that can leave you sometimes feeling kind of sad because you don't know why. Well, this is why for some of you. And that is that you try too hard to make everything okay instead of just allowing yourself to be present and to really express deeper feelings rather than what is socially or situationally appropriate. So, or what you deem situationally appropriate. So what you're being asked to do is question, okay, what is it? Not even what is it. Let's move forward. As I say, what is it? That's not where they want me to go. How would you like it, they're saying, to be able to feel the depth of emotion, the depth of love, the depth of peace in that sense of love within yourself? How would you like that? Would you like that? Because if you like that, why not? And who says so? And that's where you're getting this. It's like trying versus doing. You don't have to try. Just allow yourself. It sounds so easy, eh? But what they're saying is it's actually not as hard as you think. What they're actually saying here is two things. One is allow yourself to use the expression or the exercise of what if. What might it feel like if? What's the closest I've ever felt to feeling that sense of calm and love? What was the situation? Can I move back into that situation and let myself experience that energy? Can I let it touch my heart and let it move up through into a smile? Okay. Can I allow myself to connect my head and my heart in a way where I'm not constantly thinking about doing it right? What I instead become aware of is being present in a state of loving. Now, remember, loving doesn't have to be necessarily for anybody else. This is an exercise you can do on experiencing that state of being love. Okay? Now, how would you do that? Well, the card that came up immediately as I asked that question for you was grace. Grace is not earned. Grace is a state in which we receive for no apparent reason a divine influence which strengthens us in a way that eases whatever problematic or miserable state we find ourselves. Grace needs only to be accepted in order to be received. This is very important, what's coming in now, and it is this. There is a belief in humans that with all of our growth processes happening through a psychological context, it's easy to feel as though we have to do all of this work of healing wounds and overcoming things from our past in order to be able to feel love. But what Spirit is telling me is that is an illusion. It's not that it doesn't help. It's not that that hasn't been the path so far. But what they wish you to understand is that when you embrace the idea that you are love, that there is a divine part of you, that you are divine, that the divine part of you embodies everything that there is to do with you and loves you anyway. What you are understanding is that, what they would like you to understand is that whatever you judge as deficient in yourself, they don't. They are simply accepting you. Your higher self is simply accepting you. And when you can understand that everything else is an overlay to that essential energy, which is divine love, which is sacred love, which is source love, then when you understand that as your template, it's a lot easier to lean into that. And that's where the grace card comes from, my dears. That is where the grace card comes from. Or that is where it leads you to. It is, for no apparent reason, a divine influence strengthens you in a way that eases whatever problematic or miserable state you find yourselves. It is bigger. It is bigger than any wound you're carrying. And now it doesn't mean to say it's going to be automatic and swift. And this is me saying this now. And I'm going to stop and let them speak. Thank you. So all of the experiences, the things that you define as wounds, that we define as wounds, problems, aspects, whatever adjective we might use for ourselves, the dark side, the shadow side, the broken part of us, the wounds, what they're saying is those things are relevant because we have come onto this earth plane to learn through these things that psychologically we would define as deficient or problematic. That is how we learn. The whole point of that is that by understanding we have another part, that spiritual aspect of ourselves, which is constantly going, always there, always referenced, always accessible, that it is actually those things which make us uncomfortable, sad, cut off, isolated, that forces us to start questioning, is there more to us? And what is that more? And that more is your spiritual essence, which is love. The fact that you can't do it immediately is a part of the process of learning. And by the way, some people do it immediately, and some people do it in stages, and some people do it organically, whether they ever even question or think of themselves as wounded. But for those of you who struggle with this idea, what Spirit is saying is lean into grace. Please lean into the reality that there is the spiritual essence of you that is always full, total, and absolute lovingness, that is your essential vibration. And that as you consistently allow yourself to remember that and return to that, and allow yourself, why not who says so, allow yourself to see your whole way of experiencing love as a new way, as an adventure, and not as something that needs to be fixed, but as a way to expand your enjoyment and the enjoyment of those around you. That when you can look at it like that, it becomes less of a problem and it becomes more of an adventure and an expansion into that beautiful part of yourself that is just just this far away from any of the things that are difficult for you when you actually get that. Now, the card that comes up when I'm asking about reasons why, it's that sense of abandonment that we often have when we feel disconnected or isolated. Sometimes we'll think it's because we've done something. So I need to get a little psychological here, I think. And that is that in terms of how we would perceive our sense of not being lovable or not being loved or feeling anxious about it, if there's any sense of us having not had that as a child, we can feel that we've been abandoned in some way, whether people meant to or not. So what they're saying here is that the abandonment issue is really about the idea of feeling left vulnerable without the resources that you need to handle everything, which is when the personality will go into overdrive to be able to try to change things, make things okay, connect us with things and make things safe. But when it puts us into a state of worry and trying and overdoing and not stopping to feel, that's when we lose connection. When we connect back with Source, that sense of abandonment is gone, because that sense of lovingness is there and it eases our way into understanding all these different ways of being that is appropriate in the moment. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. The key essence here seems to be from Spirit that what they would really like you to do is open yourself to the idea that you have new ways of loving, that you have new ways of experiencing love, and that the more you can lean into the idea that you are a state of love, that you are love, and understand that as a concept, even if you don't currently feel it, but if you lean into that as a concept and say, this is the truth I choose to believe, and I choose to let myself act as though that's true, then even if it's just by reminding myself that this is the new template I am choosing to take on consciously and deliberately, which is very powerful and very important, this is going to change the game for you in terms of how you are able to experience connection, loving, depth of love, heartfelt connection. Okay? I'm leaving you with that. And again, please, Libra, remember, this does not mean that it needs to be a new lover or a new person. It is you. It is about you being new in your way of loving. Okay? I leave you with that, Libra. Take care. God bless.